G'day guys, Matt Jones here. I am the owner, founder, director and facilitator at the SiteShed. I just wanted to record this quick video just to basically give you a bit of a heads up as to what the SiteShed is, and I suppose as well how you can best get the results out of being part of this awesome community. So first of all, the SiteShed is a business podcast. And for those of you guys that don't know what a podcast is, it's basically an audio. It's like radio on demand, if you will. It enables you to listen to information or listen to topics that interest you in whatever that might be. There's thousands of podcasts that are available, and you can basically go in there and choose topics that you want to learn about on demand. So it means that you're not necessarily tied to the time constraints of traditional radio, and you also don't have to listen to a lot of the commercial radio advertisements and all that sort of garbage. So the reason that I started this podcast was being formerly a tradesman myself. I know that, on my commute to work, I was basically forced to either listen to radio or listen to CDs or whatever it might be. But none of that was really ever adding any value to me or my business accolade. So the podcast itself is a way that you can listen to information while you're driving to work that can benefit your business and benefit your personal or professional development. And it's also a way that once you're on site, instead of listening to, your typical radio that blares out, while you're working, you can actually listen to stuff that's going to be of benefit to you. So the podcast is available through numerous different resources, and we'll show you some of them in a second here when I'll show you how to use it on your phone. However, what I want to show you right now is how you can access it, and through the website, how the website all works. So each individual episode has its own web page, and on that web page, you can listen to the podcast directly from it as well. So if you head across to thesiteshed.com, you'll see a homepage which will look something similar to these. This obviously changes from time to time as we optimize it. However, you can see at the top here, there's a link to podcasts, and you can see also down the page here, there's actually the recent podcast section here. So you will just click on podcasts at the top here, and I'll show you the page. Now, keep in mind as well, folks, at the time of recording this video, there is 132 podcasts. One went live this morning. So there's a lot of content in there, and it's all relevant business-related information. So you can go through and have a filter through, see what you like. The best thing to do would be, I advise people, if you go across to iTunes, and you'll see the native app on the iPhone in a second. There's also apps for Android users. There's Stitcher, there's SoundCloud, Google Play, all this kind of things. So there's certainly options there across all devices. However, you can go across to those platforms, the podcast app on iTunes, for example, and you can subscribe to the podcast, which means that every time a new podcast comes out, you get sent a notification which says, hey, there's a new podcast, go check it out. I do that with a lot of my favorite podcasts, and it's great because you never miss any. And I know, for instance, with the podcast we just launched this morning, that is certainly one you do not want to miss. So it's a really good way to do it. But anyway, you come along across this page here, and you can see there's a bunch of podcasts. Obviously, there's loads more than that. You just got to click on the older entries down the bottom there. However, when you click on this, it'll take you to a page which looks similar to this one. So each podcast has its own page, and you can listen to the podcast directly from the player right here if you wish. The advantage of doing that is, of course, if you're in the office, you can sit there and you can listen to it off your computer, no problem. It just makes it a little bit more accessible to people. We won't play that. However, a little bit more accessible to people that aren't necessarily dependent on listening to it off their phones. However, it is an option. So you can see here, this is basically a complete blog page which summarizes the podcast. In this instance, it's summarizing the series that we're creating as well. And down the bottom here, we've got some call to actions, which enable you to get some downloads. Now, all this doesn't happen on every podcast. Sometimes when a guest comes on the show, they'll choose to leave behind some information for you guys. And that information typically is absolutely amazing stuff. So I thoroughly encourage you to go check that out. You can also get hold of that information through this section here, which is our resource page. And the resource page basically has everything that anyone's ever left behind. That was that one that you just saw. It's all this information here. It's all free. All you do is enter your information, and then that gets sends you to the page where that information is kept. Disclaimer: it does also send your details to whoever left that these documents or information or whatever it is, because more often than not, they'll have some further some more information they can send to you further on, which is relevant to that content, their business, etc. So definitely go check that out, because this page gets a ridiculous amount of hits and downloads, and you'll definitely find a lot of stuff on there which is of some obscene value. So that's basically how that works. The podcast, as I said, you can listen to the whole thing off your phone. It's very convenient. You can take it with you. You can plug it into your car. You can stick your earbuds in and you can listen to it as you go. But the whole thing's designed around convenience, and the whole thing's designed around education and making sure that it's adding value to the listener, which is you guys, of course. So go ahead, check it out. Download the apps if you need to. Subscribe to the channels, and if you're enjoying the podcast, we also ask you to head across to wherever you're listening to it and leave us a review. And the reason we ask you to do that is because it actually helps us with our rankings, and it helps us spread the word. So that's all we pretty much ask in return. It's not a big ask. There's a lot of work goes into creating these podcasts. And we do it for nothing, really. So all we ask is for a review. Anyway, that's all from me. If you have any questions, you can reach out through the contact form on the SiteShade webpage. Other than that, take care, have fun, and go and get noticed.